The only thing I love more than sports is sports radio. Take it away, boys. The Naz and Wally Sports Hour on Zoomer Radio.
Good morning and welcome back to the Naz and Wally Sports Hour. We are live from Liberty Village in downtown Toronto. We're talking about St. Michael's College School, the yellow brick building at Bathurst and St.Clair. In studio with me this morning, the president of the school, Father Thompson, also the chief officer of the school, Greg Hook. And we're pleased to welcome back to the Naz and Wally Sports Hour, David Keon. Good morning, David.
Wally, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll give you this opportunity to say good morning to Father Thompson.
Father, how are you?
I'm very well. Good morning, David. Good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
Thanks so much for joining us, David. We were just chatting about St. Michael's College and what comes up all the time when we talk about St. Michael's College School. Obviously, is the excellence of the school, the sports program, the hockey program. And of course, you're an illustrious part of St. Michael's athletic history. You attended St. Michael's College School from 1956 to 1960, 4 years. How did you find your way to St. Michael's, David?
Well, I was the Leafs. The Maple Leafs sponsored a team in Noranda, and they had two junior teams or two junior farm teams. Then they had the Marlboros, Toronto Marlies, and they had the St. Michael's program. And my parents would only let me go to St. Michael's because it was in a boarding school. And
do you remember your recollections of arriving at St. Michael's School? Any recollection of your first day there, your first teacher, your first distinct memory? I
remember it like it was this morning. I got there. I had gotten off the train at Union Station, and this guy walked by, and I didn't know him, but I knew him, and it was Frank Mahovlich. So I got up to the school, and I think it was just around 10 after 8, and the first class was getting out. And as I walked in, and a bell went off, and all of a sudden there's these students just going everywhere, and I was just totally dumbfounded about what was going on. And then I said, I don't think this place is going to work for me. And then I was standing there, and I saw this guy come in. Frank had come up I had taken a taxi, and Frank had taken the subway. And I went in, and he said he had to see Father Crowley, and I said, I do too. He said, well, come with me. And so we went down, we saw Father Crowley, and then I had lunch, and I got my schedule, and then they pointed across the field to Tweedsmuir House, where I was going to be. That's where I was going to live my first year. And I was walking across the football field, and not feeling very confident about my first exposure to St. Michael's.
Well, you made it through, David. In trying to evaluate your performance, well, obviously the world knows your performance as a hockey player. You're the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf in the franchise's history. But tell us a little bit about your performance as a student.
As I look back on it, I could have been a better student. Unfortunately, I didn't apply myself nearly as diligently as I should have, and that's one of the regrets I have.
Well, I have Father Thompson here in case you want to make a confession about that, David. But
no, I think the priests at the time were aware of that.
Going back to the priests at the time, there was a gentleman there who's in the Hockey Hall of Fame, one of the most influential people in the history of hockey in this country, who took upon himself the national program in the 1960s. Of course, I'm talking about Father David Bauer, who was a Basilian father at St. Mike's, and he was there at the time that you were. Tell us a little bit about Father David Bauer and any influence he had on your life.
Well, he was he took Father Timmons' place as assistant principal after Father Timmons died, and He was the manager of the majors the 3 years that I played, and Bob Goldham was the coach. And his, I would say, he certainly was an influence on me because he was trying to stress to me certain parts of the game of hockey that I was going to have to learn if I was going to play at the next level. And it was a long, it was 3 years that he was pounding on me to try and change some of the things that I did. And fortunately, after 3 years, it sort of seeped in and helped me as I went on in my career as a professional.
The phrase I keep hearing repeated over and over and over again about people who have attended St. Mike's is that, and I think, and listening to an interview we did with you a few years back, and I quote you, you said, if you're a St. Mike's guy, you are always a St. Mike's guy. What does that mean, David?
Oh, I guess it means that, when we all went there, some of us were boarders, some of us were day students. It was really the first time that you were away from your own close environment that you had grown up in. And you developed friendships and camaraderie and relationships because, especially in boarding, everybody was going through the same thing. First time away, a lot of people homesick. Everybody's going through the same thing. So you develop a relationship with guys, and you do the same thing with the day students, and that is kind of something that I think is carried on in my lifetime and in the lifetime of most of the guys I know from St. Mike's. They have remained. They know each other. They don't see each other for a long time, but when they get together, it's like they're still in school. So there's a camaraderie that exists, and we were together, and we went through school together, and it's something that we're proud of.
Dave, that is true to this day, very much so. Exactly what you're saying. It's very difficult to go anywhere in the world today and not encounter a St. Michael's man. We seem to be everywhere. The world is ours, as it were.
For me, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed the 4 years. I look back at them very fondly, and I know Father Zinger passed this past week, and I can remember the first year he was at St. Mike's. I think it was 1957, because I was living in St.Clair House then.
That's right. He came as a seminarian.
He did. He was Mr. Zinger then.
That's right.
He was. The priest residence was right beside St. Clair House, so I'd see him all the time.
We're talking about Father Zinger as a very special, just so our listeners know, Father Zinger had been at St. Mike's for a long, long time, and he passed away.
60 years, I think.
60 years, yeah, and he passed away, and everybody who's gone through the halls of St. Mike's is just one of those gentlemen that made a difference in so many lives. And I didn't go to St. Mike's, and
well, that's too bad.
I know, but I learned my lesson. I sent my son to St. Mike's, so I didn't have the opportunity to go there, but I had the opportunity to walk through the place quite a few times. And it's funny, David. It's like when you walk through there. It doesn't feel like you're walking through a museum because there's still so much energy and there's still so much future in the place. But you walk through and you realize some of the people that have walked through this place. And if you're a sports nut like I am, there's some tremendously accomplished people, non-sports people out of St. Mike's.
Oh, yeah.
Zillions
really?
of them.
Sure.
But it really is. There's they use the cliched term. It's a special place, but it is. You feel it. You realize when I remember walking through the halls the first time with my son, and sorry to take away your time, Dave, but this leads into you. You see pictures of Dave Keon on the walls. You see pictures of Tim Horton, of Frank Mahovlich, and. It really is a special place. How would you put that in words, David?
Oh, I guess my oldest son never went, but my youngest son Tim went to St. Mike's, and he had a friend of his who was going up, and his son was at St. Mike's, and they were going to watch a football game, and it was his son. I think his son was a freshman then, and they were going up, and the people were booing, and David said to the guy, "Well, don't worry," he said, "everybody boos St. Mike's." He said, "They all want to be there, but they boo them because he can't be there."
Yeah, I certainly understand that. David, when they retired, just so our listeners, Eugene was involved, and the school was involved in retiring your number 9 sweater back in 2008 at a ceremony. The Majors had been resurrected, and they got the opportunity to retire your number 9 sweater. Your recollections of that day and what that meant to you?
Oh, that was a great day. I was, Eugene was behind that. He owned the the team in Mississauga then, and I was honored that they chose me to have my number retired. I mean, it was a special day, and I as I said, I look back at my 4 years at St. Mike's. It's a very, very special time in my life, and all the things that happened to me and made me a better person, and hopefully, and it just kind of laid the foundation.
We've been talking to David Keon. David, we're going to let you go.
All right.
We're going to thank you so much for joining us. And Father Thompson, last word with David Keon.
David, I listen to you and I hear the same voice that I do now from more recent alumni. When asked, where did you go to school? Almost to a man, they will not say the university. They will say, I went to St. Mike's, just like you have been doing. Thank you for your...
Oh, it's my pleasure. I hope to see you. Hopefully I'll be up at the school in the next little while. I hope to see you.
We look forward to that. Thank you.
David, David, once again, thank you so much, and hope to see you soon as well. Thanks.
All right, thanks
so much.
Walter.
Thank you. That, of course, was David Michael Keon, the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf in history, a proud St. Mike's grad, and you made a very interesting comment, Father Thompson, which hadn't thought about it till now, but you're 100% correct. The people that I know that went to St. Mike's, when you ask them where they went to school, they say St. Michael's College School.
Yeah, and
more so than their university. That's
right. And further, we also feel that we didn't go to high school. We went to St. Mike's.
Interesting. It's time for our break. We had scheduled Eugene Melnyk this morning. Unfortunately, Eugene's traveling through Michigan this morning. So far, haven't been able to connect with him. We'll keep trying. If not, we'll be back with Leo Rautins. Thanks. We'll be right back.
It was a rainy day when Pizzaville realised that people may not know how many different kinds of ponzos Pizzaville makes. You're